Hey folks, I'm back for more of the Top 100. Yes, I had to have a little bit of a break, and I did schedule some episodes while I was gone, but I went on a mixture of a holiday and a convention. I went up to the Lake District to visit my brother and rest of my family for his 40th. Great time, great Lake District, love the area, always like visiting there for walks and more besides. On top of that, as soon as I got back from there, I had to go straight to HandyCon 4, which was a complete blast as well. Hopefully, either before or after this episode, you'll see a podcast coming out where I explain a bit more about that. Not all rum and roses though. Suffice to say, had a mutual breakup with the girlfriend straight after I got back from Lake District and before I went to HandyCon, so, I was a little bit bummed out about that, a little bit emotional, but HandyCon was a great way to get over it, so, whatever. Back to the single life, back to blogging, back to gaming, it's what I do best anyway. So, the Top 100. Thank you all for everyone who's been viewing it so far. Well, but the figures kind of speak for themselves. Last year, the Top 100 was popular, but it never seemed to get that many views. The views here are after a whole year of activity. And now, look at the Top 100 after a matter of weeks for some, in fact, some for a matter of days. The response rate for, the approval rate for the Top 100 this year has been overwhelmingly positive, and I can't thank you guys enough for chiming in and watching it and giving me all your feedback. It just goes to show how the channel has grown. I appreciate all the feedback, all the responses, all the positive stuff that's been said, all the debate, everything, and I hope you continue to enjoy the rest of this Top 100. Slight apologies also for 90 through to 81, where the audio was a bit weird. I had to literally, the noise removal I used distorted the audio beyond belief, and I accidentally saved the file, so I couldn't actually go back and change it. So I had to use the camera audio, which unfortunately, because it's miles away, doesn't record at a high volume. So I essentially had to up the gain by 250%, volume level it so it didn't sound ridiculous, and then noise removed the mist, the sort of like hiss factor out of it. Apparently, it turned out pretty well though from the feedback, so thank God for that. But yeah, don't worry, that won't happen again. And on top of that, I am noticing that because I've been trying to rush them out recently, I have made the odd boo-boo where like a picture doesn't appear in the right place or something like that, or some stupid error that unfortunately, because I do this by myself, it's difficult to error check everything. But I will try to aim to keep those sort of things to a minimal, because as much as I do this for a bit of fun, still want to be semi-professional. Anyway, that's enough bawling for me. We're on to, we're now on to the 70 through the 61 after Top 100. Not a lot of changes here in terms of new games. There is only 2 debuts on this list. Haha, yeah, I said debut, not new debut this time. I've been getting iced out for that one. Hate that word. But yeah, just 2 new ones on here, and the rest of them have been on the list before. Mostly dropping, but a couple of risers and here and there. So, without further ado, let's just get on with it. Number 70 was the game which I used to play before Castles of Mad King Ludwig came out. Same designer, I believe, same publisher, but this one is about building a city, and there aren't many good city building games out there, in my opinion. It's kind of like you either have to deal with so basic that it doesn't really feel like city building, or stupidly complex that you might as well go and play SimCity. This is kind of the nice somewhere in the middle that gives me that feeling that I'm building a city that has impact on other players and vice versa, with a little bit of money management thrown in, but it's a neat concept, and it's right behind me. In fact, you probably already guessed it just because it was in the camera shot. That is, Suburbia. It's been a while since I've had this at the table, but I really enjoy the just the way that the tiles come out, and again, a bit like in the Castle of Mad King Ludwig, they're priced up and you have to decide, is it worth spending that much money for that tile, but I could really use it in my city. Now, granted, this is with the expansion included, and I mean specifically the first one. What's it called? It's the one that introduces borders. I forget its name, but it essentially adds borders that you can put around your city. And yes, you can't build past them, but if you manage to actually get them in your city, they give you some cool bonuses or some other sources of income. But it kind of just sort of turns your city into something a bit more interesting than just a bunch of hexes. And on top of that, there's some cool new tiles that it introduced. it's, it's dropped a bit, not, 6 places, not loads, 64, 70, it's hanging around here. Because when I do get it to the table, I do quite enjoy this one. It's just, well, I need to refresh my memory of the rules, and as much as I do enjoy the game, you gotta admit, not the nicest looking game in the world. It works, but it's quite stark. So it's slightly aesthetically challenged, shall we say. But nope, I enjoy this one. It's a good one to start off this list. Suburbia at 70. Number 69 is the first debut on this list. I'm going to do my best not to say new debut. I hope I don't mess up in this video. And I know the guy who's watching is going to call me out if I mess up even once. But this new game is one that I almost could have put on last year's top 100. Unfortunately, it was one of those ones that it didn't make the cutoff when I made the list. I played it afterwards and thought, oh, this is good. This is top 100 material. And then as I played it more, it's like, yep, this is definitely top 100 material. Definitely going on next year's list if it stands the test of time, at least for another year. And it has. That is A Porter's Automania. I've been raving about this on my top 10 underrated games list because nobody plays this. I find anyway. I mean, there are lovers of this game, but never see it being played. People sort of go, oh, it looks cartoony, I don't want to play this, or it's too simple, I want the heavy duty Euros. Hey, sometimes light Euros are good, and I wouldn't call this super light anyway. There's still a bit of thinking involved. You still have to forward plan when you're building cars and etc. But with Mania, if you want to build cars, this is the game you play. I like other, I won't spoil, but there are other games about making cars, but the process is a lot slower. With this one though, you can build the car on your first turn. Car straight out of the factory, get it on a boat and sell it in that same round. But with this, it's a cool worker placement where you have a grid with all the tiles on, like upgrades and people you can hire. You put your worker out on the spot to build a particular type of car and then choose a tile from the row or column that you are in after paying the money. And as you get these upgrades, you're basically trying to increase the star value of all your cars, be it your little Mini, all the way up to your sports car, to your SUV, and you're selling them on boats to the American and Europe market for a mixture of victory points and cash, depending on what you need. Pretty straightforward. You don't necessarily block spaces in this game like worker placement, but in order to go to a space where someone else is, you have to pay more meeples and kick them off, meaning that they potentially get more turns. It's a nice twist on the classic just, oh, you've blocked me, whatever. Nah, this one's a nice differentiation for it. But I like Automania. It's simple to teach, it's simple to play, but there's plenty to think about, there's still a good amount of depth in this game. And yeah, it's nice enough, it's colourful. Granted, yeah, it's not the most, artistic game ever, and I think maybe the artwork and, the way the board looks and everything, maybe that just put a few people off, but, I strongly recommend. I put it on my underrated games list for a reason. This is still a solid Euro game, and there aren't many good car building games out there, therefore have a look at this one. If you can find a copy of it, that is. I'm not sure if it's still in print right now, but like I say, check it out, especially if somebody sticks it on a bring and buy somewhere. My 68 is a 2-player abstract game, and it has dropped a fair whack. We're talking, a good solid, I had it a minute ago, where is it? There we go, 29 places. Mainly because 2 players are hard for me to get to the table, and unless the 2-player is like one that I'm willing to take to every night, there are some exceptions you'll see later on, but 2-player games are harder for me to get to the table, particularly in abstract cases, because not a lot of people I know are big abstract game fans. But this is part of the GIF series that Chris Burm has done. He's done several games in this series, and most of them, I'd say the vast majority of them, are pretty good games. This is my personal pick and the one that I wanted in the collection though, and for most people this is their favourite, but to be honest, people have got varying ideas as to which one they think is best, and that is Yinch. Don't ask me why he calls these games these weird names, it's really bizarre and there are some worse ones than Yinch. But Yinch is a straight up 2-player abstract game. It's essentially building on that premise of 5 in a row. You have this weird kind of sort of crisscross hex grid that you are putting little discs on. You are color coded to whether you're white or black. And to start with, that's all you're doing. But you also have these rings on the board. And the idea is that what you're trying to do is that you are moving these rings on the board and trying to get 5 counters in a row of your color. But as there are restrictions on how you can move over counters or blocking by each other's rings and that. But what happens is that when your ring passes over counters, they flip, regardless of what color they are. So you could cause some weird chain reactions as you're flipping white to black and black to white. So you could be helping yourself, hindering yourself, etc. And when somebody does get 5 in a row, they all go off the board, but so does the ring. And it's the first to get all 3 of their rings off the table. I think it's 3 anyway. And with that, it means that the better you're doing, the more hampered you are in trying to, do well later on, because you've got less rings to work with. So it's a cool kind of artificial catch-up mechanism, but does this one burn your brain if you're not careful? I mean, it's a quick game if you know what you're doing, or if you're just willing to go with emotions, but yeah, you want to take this game seriously, it will rock your brain, and as you're trying to plan ahead and see all the different possible moves, but there's just something about it. I love that whole flipping of the counters. It's just, I don't know, it causes some great moments where you go, oh, man, nice move, man. Yep, you win, great, didn't see that coming. And if you're into sort of your chess games or anything like that, you can plan several moves ahead if you're really good and try and sort of coax your opponent into doing certain things, but it's got a bit of strategy, it's got a bit of tactics to it. Love it. Yinch, my pick of the gift series. My number 67 it's dropped a bit for me, about 23 places from 44. It's my only Van Ryder game in my collection. This one is a solo-only dice game where to be honest, if I describe it, it's kind of give it away, really. You can't really talk about this game without giving away the title. It's this one, Hostage Negotiator. It's a solo game where you are, funny enough, a hostage negotiator, and you are playing against one of many different villains, enemies essentially, who have captured hostages. You roll dice and use these conversation cards in order to try and sway what's the word they use? The hostage taker anyway, to, come forward, to release hostages, to back down, not kill any of them, that sort of thing. But, the dice might not always go in your way, and sometimes the conversation gets worse and things start heating up. They start making demands, hostages get axed off, and you're trying to save at least a certain amount of hostages, but also adhere to the conditions as per the scenario. Because each of I'm going to find out the name, because that is bugging me. What is that name? Abductor. Yeah, there we go. That's the name they've used for it. But with the abductors, you've got all these different ones. And that's just in the base box. This one, Crime Wave, it's an expansion that has a box big enough to hold everything. I've got everything that Hostage Negotiator I think's had to date. And you've now got lots of different starting player cards. You've also got lots of different abductors that you can use. And there's these little booster packs that are really cool. They've been co-designed by other designers, where you open the booster pack and it gives you a new abductor with his special cards. And there's everything from just your generic, I'm causing chaos here, I'm going to kill people. There's, the hapless man who just wants doctor's fees to save his dying child. He's not an evil man, but he's desperate. You've got twins, you've got a cult, you've got the angry CEO boss, you've got the, I believe there's what else is there? I know there's a few other kind of weird ones, but I haven't played them all yet. But it's just a very nice, cool, and pretty quick solo game. Not for everyone, because you have to accept that being a solo dice game, there's a fair amount of luck involved. But, it's a solo dice game, what do you expect? The theme works surprisingly well with the abductors you're using and the cards you're doing, especially if you just immerse yourself in that theme and think to yourself that you're in one of those movies with the classic sort of two-way back and forth between the main protagonist and the main villain. I always like those dialogue moments, because if, the film's good enough, you get some really cool sort of movie magic for that. And yeah, I enjoy this one. The booster packs are a nice, easy way to expand it. I don't need huge expansions for this game. Just give me a new abductor every now and again, and I can throw them in and just try the scenario out. But there's plenty of stuff in here once you've got Crime Wave. I really enjoy it anyway. 67, Hostage Negotiator. And for the record, I'm not very good at hostage negotiation. Alright, let's return to what is considered, at least by my top 100, to be my favourite designer, Bruno Cathala. And this one's actually climbed 4 places. Not sure why I'd say it's actually climbed, but I think it's just because it's remaining steady around this area and the games are just pushing each other about. This is another 2-player game, and granted, it's hard for me to get 2 players to the table, but this one's really easy for me to teach. People get into the theme of dinosaurs versus scientists, and dinosaur, raptor, mama. Yeah, give it away. Go on, I'm not doing very well today with these build-ups. Yeah, it's raptor. What more do you want? It's a great 2-player game where one player takes a mother raptor and their babies and is trying to evacuate them out of the jungle area. The other player takes the scientists who are trying to capture the baby raptors to perform all sorts of dodgy experiments on them. Think the Precogs of Jurassic Park, I call this. It's a 2-player game where you have a map with the different spaces that your characters can move, but what the crux of this is you have a hand of cards from 1 to 9. And with these cards, you are basically doing a kind of mental mind trick with your opponent. You play a card, you only have 3 of them at a time, and you place one face down and reveal simultaneously. The idea is that whoever plays the lower card gets to do the special action of that card. But whoever plays the higher card gets to spend action points equal to the difference in doing stuff like moving around the board, eating scientists, tranquilizing babies, shooting the mother raptor, that kind of thing. And it's great mind trickery that you play with your opponent because you're trying to get into their head and think, what card's he likely to play? Is he going to play his 9 now? If so, I don't want to play a low card because he's going to get so many action points. But what if I play something high and he plays he plays a high card? Then they're kind of nullifying each other. But wait, he needs to heal. Maybe he's going to play low. And he's running out of cards as well. That means he's probably going to play the 1 card that gets your deck back. So is now the time for me to play my 8 and 9? Does he think I know this? It's great. You're getting into each other's head, and it's quick, it's fast. I seem to find that I think the scientists are easier to play, and certainly easier to win with. Maybe they're just more beginner friendly, I don't know. I've certainly seen with the games I've played, the scientist team has won more often than the raptor, but I enjoy playing the raptor more because I love raptors. What do you want? Raptors are cool. And I'm just trying to save my babies. But yeah, it's a solid game, Bruno Cafala and Bruno Faduti, in fact, another cool designer I like, and they've both come together, and it's just really solid. It looks the part, it's cheap to acquire, we're not talking like stellar miniatures and artwork here, but it looks nice. It's just, like I say, it's just all over a decent package. And if you want a 2-player game that doesn't feel too abstracted, where the theme can jump out at you a little, and you like that whole mind trickery thing, then give this one a look. This is a solid one on my list for number 66, Raptor. That is not a raptor noise. And for my 65, you have the second debut on this list. Yes, this one is brand new, and I mean really brand new. I only played this, I think, during June, maybe May, and very quickly, it's on my top 100 at a pretty good spot for a debut, although yeah, we're going to see better later on. But this is a Euro game that came out last year, and it really flew under my radar. I just barely heard of it. I thought, no one's really talking about it, not seen many reviews. Maybe it's not all that. Maybe I can just skip it. And, it did look the part. It had good artwork. It had really, nice chunky dice that you arranged in a weird fashion and used to do actions on the board. And it's like, okay, these are mechanics I like. And then all of a sudden, it's like it's just had a resurgence where people have just discovered it. Maybe it's because it got reprinted, or the publisher brought it to a limelight, or perhaps some more reviews, including mine, in fact, have come out and sort of made people aware. I don't know, or maybe I was just blind and missed it. But this is a great Euro called Roger of the Ganges. Roger, I believe Ganges is how you pronounce it. And like I say, it just swept me by, and Hutch and Co. have made this game, and I must admit actually, where's Hutch on this top 100? They've done a few games that oh, is that? Yeah, but then Hutch is not the only publisher of this one. This one is primarily R&R games, but Hutch do a lot of games, or co-publish a lot of games that I like. Anyway, with Raja the Ganges, you are basically trying to be powerful and influential in India, as it's building up. It's becoming more prosperous, and you want to be famous and wealthy. But the cool twist with this, you're placing dice out, and the dice are kind of a resource in themselves, where the dice that you roll trigger specific actions or make certain actions more powerful, and are kind of a currency in their own right, both in colour and in number. It's really cool. And I love how you arrange them on this kind of a Buddha statue or something. It's really cool. But what I like about this is the end game trigger. You are not just simply collect victory points. Yeah, go away then, buy someone. We don't need you this time. With this one, it's more that you have to get the two tracks to intersect. There's one for money and there's one for fame. You could argue fame is essentially victory points, but money is important and you're spending it. But it's not enough to just be high in fame. You need your fame and your money to intersect on the track. And yeah, you could have loads of fame and no money. I won by that. You could have loads of money and be not famous at all. You've got so much money, people will know you anyway. Or you could have a balance of the two, which is generally more common. But that's just a cool twist. Not having to just generate a bunch of victory points. This time you have to decide, how are you going to do this? You're going to get loads of money, loads of fame, a bit of both. What do you focus on first? Do you focus on the money or do you focus on the fame? Generally the money is probably a good start. And the workers, you have access to workers, but you essentially unlock them at different times. So it's quite a neat little concept. You've got a beginner version. Well, it's not a. I'd say it's medium light, medium weight game. It's not too heavy, which is good because it means that you can crack this out in about 90 minutes, and that's a good length for a solid Euro. And yeah, you can get your workers at different times. You can decide if you're going to build, your almost like Carcassonne-esque map on your grid and unlock cool bonuses, connecting roads up. Or you might decide, well, you know what, my main thing is I'm going to focus on a specific type of building and get loads of points for that. Or maybe I'll focus on the markets and get loads of money. Or perhaps I'll just, not do too much in that area and I'll travel along this river, which gets me loads of bonuses depending on how fast I move. There's just a lot of neat things you can do. It's not particularly brain burny. 90 minutes with 4 players is perfectly doable unless you get that slow player. But again, broken record, 3 is definitely my sweet spot. It's just a solid all-round game. I'd probably like there to be an expansion for this, but sorry. But, overall, it's a decent game. I really like it, and it's shot into my top 100 pretty quickly. Where is it going to fall next year? I don't know. I think it's probably going to hinder around this point. Maybe it'll climb, but I don't see it being a top 50 game, but certainly worthy of top 100. 65, Raja of the Ganges. First up, sorry for the sort of coughs and breaks. It's still pretty hot down here in the south and it's quite dry in this room, so I'm struggling to keep enough saliva in my throat in order to continue speaking, at least without drinking on camera. But my 64 has only fallen about 3 places. This has remained pretty steady, and this is the one that gets compared to a lot when people mention 5 Tribes, which was earlier on the list. This is the one that I prefer a bit to 5 Tribes, but I love both games, tomato, tomato. This one's a bit easier for me to teach people because the rules are very streamlined, they flow quite nicely, looks absolutely beautiful. I want a picture of the cover of this box on my wall, it is that good. And, there's a decent amount of tactical depth in it. It's not so much a strategic game as more tactical because you have to react to how these coloured boats are placed between these islands. What turn order tile do you want? What strategist do you want? There's all sorts of things that you can do in the aptly named Yamatai. Yes, this is again Bruna Kafala. Like I say, certainly makes a lot of games that I enjoy. But look at that cover. Ain't it just beautiful? But anyway, it's not just because it's beautiful. It is a solid Euro game. And, this is going back to Days of Wonder, starting to bring some more thinky games into the limelight. First there's 5 Tribes, now you got Yamatai. I would say Yamatai is a bit easier than 5 Tribes to get your head around because 5 Tribes gives you so many combos on a regular basis and you're trying to figure them all out and it can get quite brain burny. This one's a little bit easier to do, although you do have a lot of options with those ships and the turn order tiles that you take. So there is a fair amount of, room for some people to freeze up if they're not careful. But I find this one so easy to teach, the rules are written so well and just so simple, but the depth is quickly revealed as you go through and surround these islands. And I've done well by doing, getting lots of strategies for points. I've done well by utilising the ships and getting my palaces and that on the various mountains really quick. I've done well by, just going across the entire map and spreading out and getting points that way. It's a great, cool Euro game. It looks stark beautiful on the table, so much colour. And yeah, there are some graphical design issues which could have been improved to make life a little bit easier for others, particularly on the colourblind scale, put it that way. But I really enjoy this. It's got great components, it's Days of Wonder, it's streamlined, it's just a really nice, not zen-like, but you know, it's a nice, pleasant Euro to play. And again, this is one of those ones where you should be able to wrap it up in 90 minutes. And 90 minutes is a great length for a game that can give you a decent amount of tactical depth. As soon as you go beyond 90 minutes, you need to start justifying more and more why you're keeping me occupied for this amount of time. But 90 minutes for a game like this, solid. 2, 3, 4 players, enjoy it either way. You know, it's solid all the way through. Yamatai. You know, they say that the old ones are still the best. Well, I'm not necessarily saying this one's the best. I mean, it's only 63. It's fallen about 13 odd places. 13 places since 49. So, yeah, it's dropping a little bit. But actually, wait a minute. No, have I read this right? No, sorry, no. It's climbed 4 places, actually. It was number 67. Now, all of a sudden, it's 63. Yeah, it's just, like I say, it's hanging around this point at a pretty steady margin. Now, this is the game that brought deck building into the limelight. Before this, deck building was a relatively new concept. This one basically said, hello, here's deck building, in a simplified manner. Forget the theme, just play this and enjoy the deck building. Have fun. And it did. And people did. For a long time. A long time. It's certainly faded now as they've stopped releasing many expansions and they're trying to push this second edition thing through, which doesn't make sense. But, you know, for a long time, this was like the top of people's choice list. Everybody was talking about this game, and with good reason, because I still enjoy the classic Dominion. It's an easy, you know, deck builder. When I just want pure deck building and nothing else, just that pure original deck builder, I'll pull out Dominion. Because Dominion, with the expansions, adds like really cool new cards that you can use, and you mix and match the different cards, you know, like you have 10 different ones in front of you, and you just get straight to it. Deck build. Get the money, get the cards, create cool combos. All the combos are different when you add all the expansions in. Now granted, there are better deck building games out there, and this one certainly has faded over time, but I still find this a great one. I have no need to, you know, grab any more expansions, like some people who have got too much stuff for this game. But I mean, I've got enough to sort me out. I've got a wooden insert in there with a reasonable amount of expansions in there, along with, which ones did I buy actually? I've got a feeling I bought Seaside. Yeah, there's the base game. I believe I bought Intrigue. I bought Seaside, I bought Guilds, I bought Hinterlands, because I like the idea of buying a card and getting an instant bonus. I, however, skipped Prosperity. Yeah, that's the big one that I don't have. And I'm kind of indifferent on Prosperity. I like the idea that you can buy bigger cards and stuff like that, but I don't know, I prefer the mechanics that Hinterlands and Seaside and Guilds throw in. I think Guilds just feels a bit more sort of thematic in the sense that they're all like professions, and Seaside has the duration cards, which I really like, and it's probably the closest one to being thematic as you can get with this one, which is relatively dry and mishmash. But the Hinterlands I found to be quite a good source of cards, you know, artwork, and also just the idea that you buy a card and you get an instant bonus. But like I say, Scoffy I like. Dominion is still fun to play. Just because other deck builders have come and possibly, you know, done better or done, you know, more interesting things alongside it, sometimes I just want to be able to say, right, here, I fancy playing the deck builder. Okay, go. Done. Right, your turn. Right, done. Your turn. Right, done. Your turn. It's like so quick, fast turns. I almost don't even want to teach Dominion anymore because I just want people who can zoom through their turns and we can have a nice quick game, enjoy it, pack it away, or just chuck out another different 10 cards and go for it, have another combo. So I still enjoy this one. I like to bring it to the clubs, and you know, granted, not as many people want to play it as I'd like to because they all think it's like getting old now, and granted, yeah, it is starting to fade, but still strong on my list. It's climbed, well, yeah, 4 places, not saying much, but it's still hanging in this section of the top 100, and I still like some of the older classics. I'm not subscribing to Cult of the New just yet. So, for the argument for Cult of the Old, Dominion, 63. Cool, blimey, it's hot. My 62, and this one is the one that I thought had dropped 13 places. It is kind of small print on this thing, so it's difficult for me to see, particularly as I'm hot. But this is a game where I think I put up top of my, I think it was the top of my exceptions to the rule list. Go check out that video if you want to find out more. But this was a list I created where, I normally say I don't like really, really long games, or I don't like historical Euros, or I don't like auction games. And this was a list which I made, on my quest that showed that there were 10 games that, despite not normally liking this kind of thing, I still gravitated towards. And I think this one was number 1. It is based on the American, political system of drafting the Declaration of Independence. Not a theme I'd be going for. I really don't tend to go for any historically themed game. And these designers, Christian Ledden and Jason Matthew, I believe, they haven't exactly done games that I tend to go for. So this was a huge exception to the rule. But for some reason I get a big kick out of Founding Fathers. It is, I believe it was, I got the designers right. Yeah, Christian Ledden and Jason Matthews. I think they've done things like 1960 making it the present, which I'd like to try actually. But Founding Fathers is surprisingly a game that I just really like. The theme in it is pretty strong. These cards that you play, I think it's the multi-use card aspect that really grips me, because I love that mechanic. I've been saying that all the time. And with this, you have cards that have 3 uses. 1, a special power. 2, used on a debate track to move your markers up and down and win points that way. Or 3, to play the what are they called? The, not decoration, well, essentially the state, the vote in for a particular aspect of the Declaration of Independence. You're voting on multiple aspects of it throughout the game. They've got symbols on them, and you're trying to aim for certain symbols to be passed so that you can get more points at the end. But there's ways to score during the game with the special powers on these cards, and as you're playing them, you're trying to sway the vote to yay or nay based on what your current goal is. And your goals can chop and change as the game progresses. I've had times where I have been struggling to come on, yay, I want this article to pass. Need this one because I knew I needed the symbol and I was building up a collection of them. And then all of a sudden I draw some cards and, oh, so hang on a minute, if this goes no, or if I play these cards, I can get some victory points that way. Well, that offsets the fact that I'm not going to get the article, so you know what? Change of tack. Now Massachusetts thinks that I should say nay. And you just get into the voting theme of this. I feel like I really am in a state where I'm, constantly seeing this back and forth, yay, nay, arguing and debating over an important historical document. Now, yeah, some of it's measured by tracks, and it's, you're looking at symbols on the articles themselves, but, the attention to the detail is good. There's flavor text for those who are history buffs, granted, that's not me, but for those who are into the history, particularly American history, there's good flavor text on the cards to explain who all these different personalities are. But even if you're just like me and you like certain mechanics that I've mentioned in this game, then go for it. It's good, it's not particularly complex, a few fiddly rules here and there, but for the most part, it's relatively straightforward. But I love the multi-use cards. 3 uses for every card, and you only have 3 in your hand, possibly 4, but usually only 3. So it's such a good example of when you're in that tough state where it's like, oh, I really want to vote with Louisiana here, but I could use that. I could use these guys to also vote on that debate track. But that special power is nice. That could get me a couple of victory points. But should I ignore that and just go for the vote? All that tension is constant throughout this game. And even though it has dropped, mainly because it's hard to get people to want to play it, because, like me, historically themed games aren't the most popular out there. And also, the player count is 3 to 5. 5 is a bit long, 4 maybe, but 3... great sweet spot again, broken record, but 3 just works for this. So, Founding Fathers, a real unexpected gem for me. Number 62, still going strong. And finally, my 61, and Matthew Dunstan returns to this list. Is this the last time we'll be seeing him? That's quite possible, actually. I don't believe he features... No, I think this is the last time we'll see Matthew Dunstan, unless he's co-published a game I haven't mentioned. But this was more his bag. This was more like really his game. And it was the first one I played where I not only had heard of the guy, also got to play the game with him. It was the first time I learned it, and I think it was at the first UK Games Expo I was at. Possibly the second. I think it was the second one. And I got introduced to him. Never met him before. Great guy. Great fun to play with. And he showed me a couple of games he was designing. But this was the highlight. There's not much of a theme per se, but you're essentially doing a card tableau building game, where you have to select cards from the middle in order to gain money, to gain victory points, to trigger off really cool special abilities and powers. But there's this cool concept that you have a kind of a borderline tile in front of you, and anything that's above it is ones that you can trigger all the abilities for. But as soon as you put them underneath by various means, they will score you victory points later for collecting sets, but then the ability doesn't work. And on top of that, oh my god, this is the most tense game of drafting cards I have ever seen. It's, because when you take the cards, you have coloured pillars that you use, and the cards require you to have pillars in your stock in order to take them. But every time you take a card, you must get rid of one of the 4 pillars. And so the more you get for a round, the less choices you have. And it's like, oh, don't take that card, don't take that card. Oh my god, no. Oh, if you haven't fought this one, then I'm sorry that you haven't played it. This is a great one, again, by Space Cowboys. How many are they? Space Cowboys are 4 games. They're one of my favourite publishers on this list. But Elysium, yes, not a lot of people play this anymore. I don't see this going around. I feel like this has kind of gone under the radar now or faded over time, but this is still solid. And annoyingly, not the easiest one to store. The lid keeps coming off. But this, it's done really well. The artwork is beautiful, but oh my god, it's super tense. Because those 4 colour pillars, you have to take 3 cards and 1 turn order tile, which gets you a little bonus. And even they require certain pillar colours. So you have to forward plan. You have to think, right, well, I want that card, so I'll buy it with yellow and blue, but then I'll get rid of my green, because I don't think I need green for anything. Right, so I'll take that card. Now I really need that card. But wait, that's going to mean I've got to give up red, and the other players have taken some of those turn order cards. So if I wait too long, I might lose out and not be able to take any of them, because there's only red and blue left. Okay, I'll leave the card. I'll do without it. I'm going to take the turn order tile. There, I get to go first, and at least I'm safe there. Oh, great, now I need 2 other cards, and running out of colours. Don't you dare take that card, don't you dare take that card. It's super tense and super great fun. And the cards are all specific to a type of, to a god. So one god favours money, one favours victory points, one favours shenanigans with the cards. And you mix and match every game. You don't use all the gods. I think there's 5 in total. No, I think there's like 5 to 7 in the box. And you use, what does it say on here? Let's see, you've got... No, I can't quite tell really. 8 families. So yeah, choose, here we go. Choose 5 of the 8. There you go. So you got 8 in the box, you choose only 5. There's a basic set that you can use for your first game, and then you can mix and match to your heart's content, and the gameplay changes every single time. Good amount of variety. It never got an expansion though, which I'm quite confused about, because this is just kind of asking for it. I think that an expansion would bring this back into the limelight and get people playing it more. And all you have to do, you don't have to add more mechanics, just add more cards. More families. You've given us 8. That's a good number. We picked 5. Give us another 5 in a minute. Give it another 5 in a small box expansion. Give us another 3 in a mini expansion. Give us another 8 in a big box expansion. Whatever you want to do. But I feel that this could just do with a few more families, just to bring it back. But even without it, I still love it. This one's dropped, I think, mainly because it hasn't been played in a while. No, I stand corrected. What am I talking about? It's climbed 8 places. I admit, has not been played in a while, but it's got one of those things where I'm just aching to get it back to the table. And not a lot of games have done that. I enjoy a lot of games, but there will only be a few that make me go, want to get it to the table, really want to get it to the table. And this is one of those. It's one where I've got to get this one reviewed. I've got to do this one because I've got to do a review on that one. This is the one where it's like when I get spare time, it's like really want to get Elysium to the table because it's really cool. This is definitely, I think, my favourite of Matthew Dunstan's games to date. Well, it is because it's the last time we'll see him on this list. So, Elysium, finishing off this segment of the Top 100. Bring it back a bit more into the light. So that's it for me for my 70 through 61. Sorry about the throat clearing and the lapse of words. It's still quite hot, and I do need to do another video, tonight before I sign off. So, good to be back in the game. Holiday is over, relationship's over, sad times. But, time to get back in the swing of it. Back to recording videos. So thanks again for watching these top 100 videos. If you like what you see, check out all my other videos, my top 10 list, my reviews, everything. And I hope to see you on the next episode where I go through the final 10 in the bottom 50. Which 10 games just missed the cut to get into the top half of my list? You'll find out next time. So that's it for me. I'll see you next time, and for now, just remember, no matter what, it's still only a game.